Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard, and this is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. There's a lot of reasons why I would not be picked to serve on a jury. One of them probably would be because I wouldn't swear on a Bible. I wouldn't want to swear on a Bible. I would swear on Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene. That's probably one of the reasons. And another reason is that, and just making this video and saying these words out loud will more than like prevent me from ever serving on a jury, because I believe in jury nullification. Jury nullification, we're going to talk about that in like a second or two. I hope everyone's doing well. I did put a few links, one link to a video about jury nullification, and we're going to be looking at an ACLU article about jury nullification. And basically, this is the crazy world of America, the United States of America. It's, if you think that our system is crazy already with the Electoral College, about how we run our politics, well, let me tell you, my friends, if you don't know about jury nullification, then it's gonna be right there. It's gonna be remarkable. Basically, to summarize, on a jury, you don't have to pay attention to the laws. You don't have to pay attention to the instructions from a judge. What do you mean? You don't have to listen to those things? You don't know. No, you don't have to. Well, why haven't we heard about these things before? It's because judges and lawyers don't want you to know about jury nullification. Let's get into the first story, everyone. Are we going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse? Of course we are going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and him being found innocent of all charges. Does the first bit about jury nullification have anything to do with Kyle Rittenhouse? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm going to let you decide. I'm just going to throw the information out there. I would vote to convict him of all crimes myself. But let's talk about jury nullification and how you, when you sit on the jury, can ignore laws if you find them unjust, like gun laws, like self-defense laws. You can ignore the instructions from a crooked judge. You can ignore instructions from the crooked judge. Yeah, you better not tell people that you're going to ignore the instructions from a crooked judge, because that could be perjury. But you can ignore all of those things, microphone, because that's the United States of America, and that's our legal system here. It's gonna get crazy. All right, jury, oh, I just saw someone. Jury nullification can be a good thing when it is, let's get someone off an unjust charge, but can be used, yes. Well, no, actually, it can be used to find an innocent person guilty, yes. Jury nullification cuts two ways. The video to down there talks about how it cuts both ways. But I just want to say one thing, is that the other side, the people on the right, the theocrats, the white supremacists, the fascists, they know about jury nullification. All right, historically speaking, at the very least. All right, let's go to the first story, everyone. This is from the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Unification, because, you know, is it okay for us to even talk about jury nullification to begin with? This is from, of course, from 2019. It is still valid, everyone. Eric Patrick Brandt and Mark Ineson. I'm going to avoid his name. I'm just going to call him Mark. Were handing out pamphlets outside of a Denver courthouse in July 2015. They wanted to inform the public about jury nullification. That is the power of jurors to vote against convicting criminal defendants under laws that the jurors believe are unjust. That's not abs. That's only one half of jury nullification. So let's say the classic example is someone is caught with marijuana, right? Or some kind of other illicit drug, or maybe they're busted for prostitution. You, on the jury, despite the fact that that person is guilty of whatever the law says, you can still vote that they are innocent. That is an aspect of jury nullification. But there's also jury nullification where you can vote someone guilty if you do not agree about the laws. Brandt and Mr. Mark, that's what I'm going to call him, were trying to participate in a centuries-old and still thriving discussion. The pamphlets they were handing out included statements such as, wait for it, juror nullification is your right to refuse to enforce bad laws and bad prosecutions. What's that? You don't agree with the prosecution? You don't agree with the laws? You can nullify that as a juror? Yes, you can. Once you know your rights and powers, you can veto bad laws and hang the jury. So when it's your turn to serve, be aware you may and should vote your conscience. You cannot be forced to obey a juror's oath. You know, my girlfriend and I, we were having this discussion yesterday. She was talking about the juror's oath. It's like, you know, they're making me swear on the Bible, a book of lies. I don't think, you know, this is like some kind of crazy game of kabuki. This is some kind of kabuki, right? Some kind of weird play acting, some kind of cosplaying, like the Bible means anything. So when I give my oath, sure. Could I get into the trouble bubble if I say I'm agreeing to do this thing, but I really don't agree with it? I believe in jury nullification. Yes, I can get into trouble. However, you are not bound by that oath and how you vote on a jury. You have the right to hang the jury with your vote if you cannot agree with the other jurors. Let that roll around in your forebrain for a little while, everyone. That is jury nullification, or at least aspects of jury nullification. One of the things that we've heard about the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict is how the laws are all effed up, right? That a 17-year-old can carry an AR-15 around in public, being a vigilante. Wow, I'm against vigilantes. I'm against crazy, you know, gun laws here in the States. Maybe I would have voted my conscience on that jury, despite the laws, despite the judge's recommendations. Maybe, perhaps, I don't know. The role and power of juries in particular have been the subjects of debate and discussion since before the founding of the Republic. English courts first recognized the jury's power to acquit a criminal defendant, even when the weight of the evidence points to the defendant's guilt. In 1670, juries in colonial America used jury nullification to protest the power of the British Parliament over the colonies, and Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, and prominent judges in the early days of the nation all believed that jurors had a duty to vote their conscience regardless of the evidence. Gonna say it effing again for the back seat, people in the cheap seats. A duty to vote their conscience regardless of the evidence. Regardless of the evidence, you still can vote your conscience. Nullification often occurs today when people are prosecuted under draconian drug laws for low-level drug offenses or face harsh mandatory sentences. Historically, jurors have acquitted against the weight of the evidence in cases against Vietnam War protesters charged with destroying draft files, and in the Fugitive Slave Act prosecutions against escaped slaves and individuals who aided them. That article focuses only on voting not guilty, right? But you can also vote someone guilty if you believe that the laws are wrong. I'm going to check out the chat 1 minute before we get into the Kyle Rittenhouse verdicts, everyone. Let's see. Jurors can ignore the law. Cannot happen in most jury systems. Yeah. Once you hear about, I was first told about jury nullification maybe in my early 20s. I was talking to a lawyer. We were just working together, and he was black, so it kind of makes you think that maybe people who are black or brown skinned and who know about the law here in the States know a little bit more about jury nullification than those of us in the majority. Let's see. Yes, it isn't just, but you can also vote guilty. Now, when you do vote guilty for someone and use the powers of jury nullification, it isn't as strong as voting to acquit someone because there's an appeals process. Okay. I think we're going to do a cat video, everyone, before we actually start talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Is that okay? Is that okay? Right? From jury nullification to cat video to Kyle Rittenhouse. That's what we're doing. Oh, Vesta. I'm not surprised. I was dismissed from a jury pool by being too well educated. Yeah. Yeah. Cat video, everyone. We'll be back after we're done with the halftime tummy rub show.
Kitty, 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 kitty. I'm begging of you, please don't scratch the door. Kitty, 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 kitty. Please let me sleep for just an hour more.
You know, I'm just going to answer this as I understand it, Big Zebra. According to the law in the state of Wisconsin, if you could show that Rittenhouse felt threatened, if he felt threatened, it wasn't like assuming that Rittenhouse is a rational person who has an average IQ, and if he felt threatened, then he could use deadly force. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the law. I don't agree that 17-year-old should be running around with an AR-15. And I just want to say to Jimmy Snow out there, right, who's a good guy. Terms and conditions apply to that. In AR-15, the AR does not mean assault rifle. It's Armalite. That's the name of the manufacturer. That's how I understand it, at least. Yeah, I took a look around some of the atheist channels and some of the non-atheist channels, liberal channels that I follow. And has anyone else talked about jury nullification? I don't think they have, but that's just me. That was a funny video. All right. Kyle Rittenhouse, let's get into it. So if you are just tuning in now, you gotta listen to the first 10 minutes of this show about jury nullification, because we're backing up into the Rittenhouse verdict via jury nullification. Let's do this thing. Links in the description below, everyone. Oh, are we going to talk about the Proud Boys too? We're going to talk about the Proud Boys. Why the Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty verdict is not a surprise to legal experts. I wasn't surprised. If you've been following the story, it seems like it was preordained that Kyle Rittenhouse was going to get off of all charges. After 27 hours of deliberation over the course of 4 days, a jury declared Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty on the 5 charges he faced after fatally shooting 2 people and wounding a third during a night of unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin last year. Rittenhouse trembled as the verdict was read count by count and then collapsed in sobs. Rittenhouse had a strong self-defense case. Prosecutors said that Rittenhouse had put himself in danger through a series of reckless choices. He came to Kenosha during a period of violent and destructive riots. He armed himself with an AR-15 style rifle. He stayed there past curfew, and after being separated from his group, they emphasized that he was the only person there to shoot someone. But the law of self-defense in Wisconsin allows someone to use deadly force if they reasonably believe they are in imminent danger of death or bodily harm. Yeah. 17-year-olds carrying Armalites, something he couldn't even buy, right? He can't even buy an AR-15, as I understand the gun laws. It was given to him. It was loaned. It was a loaner gun, right? Was that a loaner gun? Right? Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with vigilantism. Is that the reason why I would have voted guilty? Because when you vote guilty in this situation, you're voting against this crazy self-defense law they have in Wisconsin. You're voting against vigilantism, and you're voting against crazy gun laws. That's what you voted guilty for. At least that's how I would feel. All right. Afterward, Rittenhouse ran away toward a police line. He said during the trial, while he was running, several people started to chase him, including Huber and Grosskreutz. Huber struck Rittenhouse with a skateboard, evidence showed, and Grosskreutz was armed with a Glock pistol. Prosecutor said the 2 men had believed Rittenhouse was an active shooter and were trying to disarm him, but Rittenhouse testified that he feared for his life. Prosecutors had a very high bar to overcome Rittenhouse's claim of self-defense. In Wisconsin, once a defendant has made a self-defense claim. Prosecutors then disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt, experts explained. I don't agree with that either. I don't think, reasonable doubt? No. Or at least maybe my sense of reasonable doubt is different from what lawmakers, maybe what the judge thinks is a reasonable doubt. I don't know. Am I wrong? This is a radical concept, to vote someone guilty even though they didn't break any laws. But if you disagree with the laws, and if your conscience states that the man is guilty, that the person is guilty, I think you should vote your conscience. Okay, here it comes. It does. Thank you, Tesla Ranger. The AR stands for Armor Light Rifle, not Assault Rifle. It's a common misunderstanding for a lot of folk. Wendy, Rittenhouse for trial. Yeah. I didn't know that Weezer's from Kenosha. I didn't know that. Vesta, we all know the answer to this. Unfortunately, if Kyle was black, would he have received the same sentence? No. Would the cops would have accepted him with open arms? No, they would not have. Right. His buddy bought it. His buddy bought the gun for him because he couldn't do it legally in his own state. And this is just how crazy the gun laws here in this country. And to tell you the truth, I've said it more than once on this channel that we should get rid of the Second Amendment, right? Because the Second Amendment is a pile of filth for all intents and purposes. And I had a very good video with Professor Alan Lichtman, who wrote the book about getting rid of the Second Amendment. And if you haven't seen it, take a look. It's in the channel somewhere. He was protecting himself from a skateboard crime. Yeah. What's up, Sean? Hope you're doing well. All right. So I just summed up everything that I think. Now, some of you, if you're ever not caught, but if you ever go on a jury, it may not be wise to talk about jury nullification out loud, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Sure, Wildy, that is disgusting. What I find disgusting is the discrediting and slandering of the deceased victims of the shooting. Indeed, there's going to be all types of lawsuits. There's going to be civil suits, especially against the police department, right? All right, everyone. Covered all of that in 18 minutes. What a great show we run here, right? All right. A little bit of Schadenfreude for all of us. You want to have a little bit of Schadenfreude? Maybe a tablespoon of Schadenfreude. We know this guy. Proud Boy leader in jail. Salty tears, everyone. That's what he's crying. He's complaining that prison is tough. He's saying the American prison that he is in is difficult. Proud Boy leader wants early release due to horrific DC jail conditions that has him fearing for his life, but judge wants to know why his case differs from others. This is from the Atlanta Black Star. Here we go. Enrico Tario, the chairman of the Proud Boys, and we've talked about him before. He was still living in his mama's basement, as I recall. Was I correct on this? A lot of the Proud Boys hierarchy, white supremacists living in their mama's basement. Is asking a judge for an early release from jail. The right-wing extremist has grumbled to the court, saying that jail conditions are inhumane and the correction officers are harassing him. NBC News reports that on Monday, November 15th, during a video hearing with District of Columbia Superior Court Judge Jonathan Pittman, Tario made his request to spend the rest of his 5-month sentence in his home under house arrest. The Miami native is currently serving time for taking a Black Lives Matter banner from the historic Asbury United Methodist Church, a predominantly Black institution in Washington, D.C., on Saturday, December 12, 2020. Originally, his attorneys thought he would only get a probation, but then he found out that District of Columbia Superior Court Judge Harold L. Cushenberry sentenced him to 155 days in jail. Good job, Judge Cushenberry. Now Tario wants that 155 days knocked down to 90. He told the judge, that he was deathly afraid that something is going to happen to him. Tario, who identifies as Cuban American and Afro-Cuban, rattled off a list of jail hazards in making his case to the judge. He shared that his cell is constantly soiled by toilet water from another cell, suggesting that human waste travels from one neighbor to the other. He said that during times when he and others incarcerated him were in need of medical assistance, correctional guards ignored his request for aid. It sounds as if Mr. Tario is now supporting prison reform. Is that what? It'll be interesting to see what happens when he gets out of jail, everyone. Whether or not he becomes a firm advocate for prison reform here in the States, because we all know that prison here in the States is more about punishment than reform. But if he does, I welcome him. Welcome to the light side of the force, Mr. Tario, is that you are now supporting prison reform. That would be pretty sweet. But what's the over-under on that, everyone? Once this guy gets out of jail, he's going to go back to his do the crime, do the time. He further complained that his food is many times inedible and cold. Oh, that's horrible, punctuating his grievance by claiming that the guards throw the food at him. Lucas Dancy, Tario's attorney, stated that her client was even threatened by the guards to keep quiet about the conditions. She wrote in a statement, Mr. Tario has been intimidated and antagonized by correctional staff to dissuade him from making complaints about the horrendous conditions. You know what? I'm just saying this. Any Proud Boys listening right here, right? Or if you're Proud Boy adjacent, join us on the left to say that prison conditions here in the States is wrong. It's just wrong. And that we should be putting money and resources into the prison system to make it more humane, right? That we should be putting resources into our communities so that we don't incentivize people to do horrible things. All right, going to check out the chat because we're going to close down the show pretty soon. No ads on this show, everyone. No ads. Hate ads. Links in the description below if you want to help out. If you want to become a YouTube member, please do. If you want to become a patron, please do. There's Venmo, PayPal, me information down there. All right, checking out the chat. Seeing how everyone's doing. I hope you had a good weekend. I had a good weekend. I hung out with a couple of people from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. There was a conference here in Boston over the weekend. Did some drinking with some buddies. I had a really good time. Food fight, indeed, Big Zebra. Checking out the chat. Tesla Ranger. Rittenhouse is a small lunar impact crater that is located on the southern part of the moon's far side. What do we say we send him here? I didn't know that was a small lunar crater. Tesla Ranger. Thank you for pointing that out. Yep. That's right, Sean. Who would have thought that jail would not have lobster and steak and no chocolate mousse? Terrible. You had a good weekend, Phil Lister. Yeah, I had a good weekend too. Busy, of course, as always. Oh, Kevin Chaos, I'm sorry that you have Tucker Carlson in your recommended videos. He's in my recommended videos too, by the way. If it makes you feel any better, I don't know if it does. All right, so once again, we are doing the after party after show at 9:30, which is only 6 minutes away. I'm going to close out the show, and we can talk about anything. Oh, this is the David Donahue, who hasn't been paying attention for the show. That's okay, David. I'm sure you're an okay guy. Maybe, right? How can you tell the verdict is wrong? Because no, I'm just joking around. How can you tell that the verdict is wrong? Because if Rittenhouse was a Democratic BLM protester who would try to counter-protest and got off scot-free, he'd be hunted down by the alt-right for the rest of his life. Yeah. All right. Drop a like, please. All right. I'm going to throw the thank you video. I'm going to do another cat video too, and I'm going to see you at 9:30, hopefully, for the after party after show. And you can tell me that I'm wrong about jury nullification if you want to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe you agree with me. I don't know. I know that I don't think many people are talking a lot about jury nullification vis-a-vis the Rittenhouse trial. That's all I'm saying. I'll see you at 9:30, everyone.